Welcome to the Q&A and Critique number 84. It is currently 3:18 local time and I'm on my new computer. So bear with me as I'm pushing through my familiarity with the software and with the first official stream on this machine. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Crusader, who we have been looking at his art or their art over the past couple of weeks with a tribute to Backrooms and a number of different creative storytelling that's starting to happen. So over the past week, we've had a couple of questions arise, wondering where is this story coming from and the technique. And today we are going to have the honor of getting some answers. Later on in the episode, before we begin with the interview, I will be sharing some updates of content that is coming that I'll be producing here for Beef Artists and also for on my channel concerning new videos and content, and also the upcoming chat episodes of the Android Repair Shop and the current state it's in. We're going to do a quick art review. We have 3 or 4 pieces in, including a former special guest, Sam, here with a cloud piece, and then we have some art tips concerning modeling from blueprints based on a question by the user Haley. And last but not least, if we have time, I would like to walk through some of my customizations and setups for my 3D modeling or my 3D working environment for Windows 11. So I'm looking forward to share these little bits of software and tips and tricks that I use for my daily work. And with that, that would be the session of today. So without further ado, let's begin. And let's start with Mr. Crusader. So how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing pretty fine. Been a tiny bit chaotic at the beginning, but other than that, not much.
Good. So we've been having a look at your art, which I'm going to load up here onto the screen. And I wanted to ask you a bit more about these pieces. What is the inspiration behind the pieces that you've been working on lately?
Well, some of it was the backrooms, but one new recent ones, like the green ones, the one with the green walls.
Yes.
Those are like I had seen the film Skinamarink. Probably didn't translate right. Oh, give me a second. Okay. And I mainly got the blue lighting. I from a Hollywood, most Hollywood movies. I'd say I wouldn't check that because it's probably wrong. But let's see. Yeah, I've been working on something else recently that isn't based off of that, but I haven't shown any
Renders of...
sorry for this. Sorry, I have ADHD. I can space out sometimes.
That's okay.
I don't know if I really want to say right now because I'm trying to keep it a secret, and also I don't have the story fully fleshed out yet.
Ooh, but there is a story. That's exciting.
That's pretty much it from me.
Oh no, so there's not a lot of information.
I am trying to work on the story.
Good. So there's this green room and there's this yellow room. Let's see if we can I can hint or get some ideas. There's a bright yellow room, there is a cream colored room with bathroom tiles, carpet on the floor, doorway. Then we have these white hallways with these bright office lights. There's also recently some of our users here who've connected have really enjoyed this piece where you have this concrete pillars and walls with a concrete roof. So I know you're still working on the stories, but do you have any hints of what the story could be?
I don't have much, mainly because I had an original story, but I scrapped it because it didn't make sense. But I will say now that the first render with the grain room, with the doorway thing on the blue lighting, that is going to be a part of it. The other two green rooms don't really have to do with it by any means, but that's pretty much it for clues.
Excellent. Okay, so let's go around back to the art and what you do. Outside of these rooms and these renders that you're working on, which I think are great, and some of them look very real, what do you do with your artwork? What's your current vocation at the moment?
Sir. Vocation? I don't mean such stupid, but like, what do you mean by that?
Do you work in this professionally, or do you work in 3D modeling or rendering in the professional aspect of the industry?
Well, as of right now, no, not really. I'm not taking any classes on it. But I was originally, and then there was a teacher that, like, very, like, snock teacher, or just in general, she didn't really teach that well. And so I didn't take the class because of it.
So you've been picking this up on your own time with your own investigation. It's great.
100% all of mine.
Sorry, you cut out again.
Oh, for that, I already forgot what I said. Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't think it was anything too important.
That's all right. So, when it comes to this project that you're working on and you're developing the story, you scrapped another story. Where do you think you'll be taking this project? And also, yeah, where do you think you would like to take this project? What will be the final product?
Let's see. I am planning on adding people in it, not like many. I do like the eeriness of it. I'm also like planning to have a more filmatic style, if that makes sense. Like, not a handheld camera. Some of them will be, but like not all. I do like film and photography.
Wow. And will these people be rendered as well? Or are they composited in?
Yeah. They are going to be rendered. The one problem is I don't know how to like model really detailed people. So I get it from actorcore.com, but it does like cost money. So I'm probably not going to use it at the moment. I'm not good money wise right now.
Actorcore. Is this done by Real Illusion? I think someone recommended me this the other day.
I think so. It's been a while since I've been to the website.
Now here it is. They have some free movements and some characters for free as well.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, if you go to the actor section, it should show all the people.
Actor. Usage, staff picks.
Top left.
There we go, male, female, all types. Up here.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, these are perfect for the shots. They do have a high price.
Well, I just wasn't up to like spending $30 by any means on it, because I just don't have that kind of money to be spending on stuff like that.
That's true. Hopefully there's some that are more economic. If not, I can help you learn how to auto-rig some scanned characters if you find, which usually are a lot cheaper. Maybe for some particular shots you don't need like a full walk cycle. Maybe you could just rig a slight sway when they're standing somewhere, depending on the shot. There's a lot you can do.
Yeah. I've actually this it is kind of embarrassing for me to admit, but I don't know how to do the walk cycle. I just never got around to it. And when I used to do 2D animation, and then when I started 3D, I had no clue how to make a human being or any like thing with like legs in general. So I just never really got around to it.
But 2D animation is quite a finessed skill. With your work, do you have
Yeah, I wasn't. Sorry. You go ahead and finish what you're gonna say. My thing's a bit delayed,
you,
so I stopped talking when you like. Yeah.
it's okay.
Sorry. You can go ahead.
So with your 2D artwork, do you have some of your pieces or your animations somewhere online? Will we be able to see them?
No. No and no, mainly because it was like, I'd say it's like 3 or 5, I think it's 5 years ago ever since I did 2D animation. And then I just kind of took a break from animation in general. And like, I'd say around a year and a half to 2 years ago, I started 3D in Blender.
Oh, well done. You've come quite far. Oh, you can also, someone in the chat recommended using Make Human as an add-on for creating realistic humans within Blender. So that's kind of cool.
Ah, thanks to whoever recommended that.
So these are actually potentially free, or purchase once and make many. So in the process of making these rooms, what is the technical challenges that you had to face? And how did you solve them?
I'd say the main problem only be two things. That would probably be loop cutting for the walls. Once you have in floors too, because once you have so many loop cuts, for some reason on my computer starts to glitch out and get really messy in general. And then modeling would probably be the other one, because one thing I think I'm like more embarrassed to admit that I am not the best at modeling. Sometimes I do use like Blender Kit, and I'm totally open to admit it. But what I will do sometimes, I'll get the like things from Blender Kit and try and recreate them, and then so I can try and improve the skill. But I still know how to model.
That's good. And with this, with the story and the work that you're working on, what are the biggest inspirations that you draw from? I know, and last week we talked with Kumare, and he mentioned that they reminded him a lot of Backrooms. Seems a lot of the community here knows what this particular project is. I wanted to confirm this inspiration. Do you have others that inspired you to build these rooms?
Yes, like the one with the gray rooms was killing, and mainly because like low shots near the floor, they didn't really want you to get faces. I don't know why, but they didn't. Probably perhaps. So I kind of made some of the shots, especially one with that old doorway thing. I haven't given a name for it yet. Especially yeah, that's probably the one I got from.
The one with the TV?
And other ones are from the one with the TV. That one, I got the wall design from like one video I saw in the background, but that is what really based off backgrounds.
All right. So you have a number of various sources that you're working, various ideas that you're working with.
Sorry, say that again. You cut out.
Okay, so you have a lot of various resources that you're pulling from to get the idea. And also, I like that you worked with the Blender Kit to get an idea as a base concept. I think it's actually very useful. I do the same with Unreal Engine free assets. There's always an asset pack or a type of content that's released every month, and you can purchase them for free. and then you download them, you take a closer look, and you learn some new techniques that I never would have thought of. So there's no shame at taking a look at other people's content and seeing what they do and how they do it by putting your hands into it, getting a feel for it, breaking it apart into pieces. It's very good. Yeah, it's being resourceful with the content that's available to you. That's okay. So when you started the project,
all free on most of it. Most of the things on BlenderKit is free. Some of them require premium, but there's still a lot of models that are completely. I don't know who would do that, like without after like $1. That's just me.
Right. So we have a question by I'm Kind of Drunk.
Going my way.
It's a short question. It's like,
sorry to keep on interrupting you.
No problem. So this question is by I'm Kind of Drunk, and he's asking, do you usually use booleans or fast modeling techniques?
I do use fast modeling techniques. Like for example, I usually do the thing where I only really model what you see, and stuff in the back you don't usually see. I remember actually now be off topic, but I remember my first ever model was a model of a CCT, square TV, sorry.
That's good. And another cheesebread has asked another question is concerning your setup. I also have another question for you. So concerning your setup, what type of rendering or graphics or hardware do you use to get these renders out?
So you're asking like for what GPU did I use, or each time of the softwares, or?
Yeah, what type of hardware do you use? I think was the question.
Let's see.
Graphics,
is like a. This is I spent a few years saving up for this, but let me see. I'm gonna have to go to settings and see what my GPU was. It's a very good GPU, but it does still have stuttering problems, mainly because I'm running on memory and I'm trying to switch drives. At the moment, like not right now, obviously, but I'd say like a little bit after the interview, I'm going to switch drives.
Sounds good. So my question.
Give me a second.
All right.
Device manager. You aren't talking at the moment, are you? I can't tell if you're glitching or not.
No, I'm not at the moment. I was giving you some time and loading up some software.
Okay. Yeah, it might take me a second. It is just a minute since I've checked the GPU. Right.
No problem.
The first time. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so in summary, I'll just give a quick summary to what we have. You can always quick check the GPU and CPU within Blender in those settings. If you're inside Blender, you can always go to the preferences, the system tab, and it should give you the name of the GPU nice and quickly.
Oh, okay. Oh, I found it the other way. I'm sorry. Let's see. It is NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3000. Very powerful.
Very good. Yeah, It's a good one. Okay, so my next question right now is concerning the production with the art. So I've noticed that you've been publishing these posts over the past 3 weeks. I wanted to ask you, when you started the project, how long ago did you start, and how long have you been putting time into the project? What kind of time frame with your art pieces did you have to think up the ideas, think up the story, think up the general production? In other words, when did you start, and how long has it taken?
Let's see. It has been like I haven't started thinking of the story when I started Blender. Well, I would say like after a year or so, or like a little bit less than a year, I like started thinking of what I wanted to do in Blender. Like I want to put it to use. And the main reason why is because I've seen a lot of people like make animations in Blender, but like, yeah, how do I put it? It just seemed like the only reason why they did it is because they could do it in Blender. Like, um, the only like good part about it was that they did this in a free software kind of thing. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I wanted to like make a thing that wasn't like all about, hey, I made this in Blender, isn't that cool? And just more, hey, I made a film, isn't that cool? Kind of thing. But that started all around, I'd say 2021. No, not 21. 2021, close, like in December, I'd say. And then I started like thinking I wanted to make like separate images for to give hints or like give teases for my thing. And I slowly started building on my thing. I scrapped the thing 3 times because I just didn't know where I was going. The fourth time, which is like I'd say now, I think I have a good idea where I'm going to go. That's pretty much it from how it all started to now.
It has been an ongoing process over various years, but I'm glad you're still sticking to it even though you scrapped it. So that's good tenacity. It's good to know. Good to know. So when you start, my next question about this, just to tie this up, is when you started to work on the project, before you scrapped the ideas, what if you could talk to yourself back in the past? What advice would you have given yourself to help you on your storytelling adventure? What is the key lesson you've learned?
I'd say, what is the lesson? I'd say that. So some reason that's a tough one. So, I mean, storytelling wise, I definitely tell myself to not like make the renders first and then think of the story. Like to think of the story and then base the renders off of what's going on in my head. And also probably to write it down too, because I have very terrible memory. I can forget things in like 5 seconds. And yeah, it kind of concerns me, but it isn't too bad.
So that's a good advice, is helping you to write it down, make sure you capture the inspiration and get it real. That's good.
Yeah. One question.
Oh, yes.
Or do you mind if I explain like something like a tip I would have given myself a little while ago for like compositing wise and like rendering wise in general?
That would be great. Yes, I would love to hear.
Yeah. I mainly want to say this because for like new beginners out there and also like people who want to know how to make their renders better is to get it first off, get a clear image of what you want to make in your head. And then slowly trying to work until it kind of looks like what you want. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but still try and get the general idea. And then I'd say the main strength is compositing in the way I have the lighting. I always like having the lighting to be unique in most scenes where it's coming from one side or it's like hitting the sides of an object to give it a kind of movie feel. If that makes sense. And compositing, If it depends two things. If you're using the Blender compositor, which I used to do not make it that complicated. That you'll fall into the same trap I did. I made mine so long that I couldn't even take a photo of it because pixels were too small to even like show the entire thing. It was like about, I'd say, 50 different nodes just for the compositor, and it was kind of insane. And all I really needed to do was the color grading. But all you really need to do is just adjust the contrast in the compositor and like change the colors. Is in my opinion the best you can really do in the Blender compositor. But if you use Adobe After Effects like I do now, it does cost a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But you know, if you have the time and you have a good paycheck or have a good money, then I'd suggest getting it. And see, you do definitely want to start out with color grading. That's probably the main thing you want to do, and get Lumetri color. Just mess with that until it looks good, and then give it fish flames. And that's pretty much it for me.
Oh, that's good. That's good advice. Try not to overcomplicate things. I often get into that trap with my own work. I often make my things very complex. But yes, the color grading tip is the first step, which is actually something I'm actually working on right now with the current project. So, Mr. Crusader, I think this half an hour that we've been talking on the general project, I feel like you've only made me more curious about the story. I really want to know where you take the project, and I love the mentality that you have about focusing more about the final story you want to tell and not about the technical achievement that you've done within the software. The actual immersive message you want to say with the renders that you create is something very special, and I highly appreciate the effort that you've done over the past couple of years up until this point. So the technicality has a drive.
Thanks.
And the story you're developing, it does speak for yourself. Like, I'm not sure where you're going to take it, and the teasing that you have been doing today, I really will be keeping my eyes open on your future work. So thanks for coming on today and sharing this information.
No problem.
Okay, so now that we've reached the halfway point of the show, of the Q&A and Critique number 84, we're going to be moving on into art review. So today we have not as many pieces from the last class, poor Q Murray, so much art to go through. I may have to pick and choose if there's a lot next time. But today we have 3 pieces done by some regulars of ours. The first piece that we're going to be looking at today is done by Standing Pad. So if you're still here, Mr. Crusader, I would love to take a look at this piece of art and get your feedback based on this piece. So the criteria today...
Yeah.
Excellent. So the criteria today, since you're very good at your compositing, I would like to ask you concerning the color grading and the compositing of Standing Pad's piece, which is this one here.
So you want me to like say what I like about it and what I think should be fixed?
Yeah, where it could improve, what you like about it, take it on. Standing Pad has been a regular publisher in the server for some time now, and he's very active. He's very good at what he does, and he's mostly been focusing on Minecraft tribute art. So he's also been working his color quite a bit. And he's also just recently created documentation about lighting and compositing, actually. So I'd love to hear your opinion on this one. What do you think?
Sure. Let's see. I love the difference in color. I like the saturate. I cannot speak.
Saturation?
Saturatedness of it. Yeah. Sorry, I also have like a weird thing where I have a hard time talking. But let's see. What I would say to fix is specifically for this image, try not how I put it. Um, like I'd say adjusting like just as like a little bit to where it's not like shining so equally, but like not like too contrasted on the face, if that makes sense. And also on the rest of the body, but and I think that other than that, it's pretty fine. And and probably just to give more detail to the background. Other than that, it looks pretty amazing.
It does. I wonder what this blue thing up here is. It almost looks like lapis lazuli,
Yeah, I was
maybe.
wondering too.
I guess this is another guest that we need to talk and understand a bit more about his universe and his character. I've seen this particular person posed in many different situations, and I wonder what he's doing. Or should wonder what she's doing, actually. So the another piece is actually an animation by one who has actually connected today. And I wanted to ask White Rooster Productions, would you like to come onto the microphone to share your piece? If not, that's okay. So let me just show the animation.
Hello.
Oh, White Rooster,
I've
you're
seen a
here.
few things before.
Hey, what's going on?
Good. So White Rooster, last week we showcased some of your videos, and
Yes, I missed that. I'm sorry.
that's okay. Basically, we were looking at your animations, and this, I think, from that point, and with this animation today, we have now 4 different titles, maybe 5 titles about White Rooster Productions, which is your brand. So I wanted to ask you, what is the story and what's the context for all these different titles? What are you working on? Can you tell us a bit more?
These are actually for. I've been doing PC build videos now for about a year and a half, and you have kind of like the introduction, right? That's where you the the video starts, should we say, and then there's a time lapse where I put the video together, and then after the video is complete, then I have an animation to segregate between the assembly and then, should we say, the cinematic reveal of the final PC. And that's what these are for. These are just little tinkering things that I do to fill in that the bridge the two scenes, should we say. Um, that's what I've been using them for. I haven't necessarily, like, that wasn't the original intention of it. It's one of these things where when I wanna learn something, when I wanna get better at something, they say you do it over and over again until you get it right. And this type of thing has just been something I've been building on. I've been kind of branching out outside of Blender into more like professional studio programs. This was made in DaVinci Resolve. And so I wanted to learn a lot of features in DaVinci Resolve, specifically how do you do particles, because I saw a lot of tutorials on YouTube on how you do particle animations with DaVinci Resolve, and it seems to be like it has its advantages and disadvantages over Blender. Like I feel like it renders a lot faster and you have a lot more control. And so, like, if you kind of look, there's like this progression of I get better and better and better, keep doing the same thing over and over again, try to come up with more creativity, throw in more things. And this one here, this is a huge conglomeration of all kinds of particle effects that I've made throughout the last several months, and put it all together. This particular animation was inspired by um, uh, To Kill a Mockingjay. Um,
Yes,
with
I do
Jennifer
recognize it. That's very similar.
Lawrence. Yeah. So I saw that and I'm like, oh, I want to figure out how to do that, and that's where the fire aspect of it came in. It was also very inspired by Avengers: Infinity War Endgame, the particle dissolve effect. How do they do that? And yeah, it turns out you can do that fairly. I don't want to say simply in DaVinci Resolve, but you can actually do it without advanced hardware in that program. And yeah, that's where that came from.
That's great. Yeah, last week we had a look at some of your animations after the show finished, and we got
Oh,
quite a few votes on this one here, actually. We
yeah.
all liked this one quite a bit.
I don't know why that works. It was just one of these silly things I did in Blender, and I'm like, I don't know, it just works. I don't know why. It's one of these things where like my problem is I keep trying to throw more and more and more detail on it. Like put some texture on the blocks and really add as much detail as you possibly can. For some reason with this, it was like simpler is better, and that's just not my style. I try to do everything. I throw as much detail in as I possibly can. And this, I'm just like, you know what? That just kind of works, and I left it. Now there's some color grading and whatnot in there, and then to give it the to give it that green kind of glow. I think originally it was just black and white. It wasn't any color in there whatsoever. I color graded it to give it that kind of green hue. But yeah, no, that was just one of those really simple things I did in Blender, just tinkering around, and it just grew into that.
Fascinating. There was one piece that we were having a discussion last week, which is this one here. Another one of your titles. Let me see if it loads. This one here. Let me load it up. So this piece here,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
a user interface with a glitch effect.
Mhm.
We didn't actually know how you did it, though we assumed that you used a software outside of Blender.
Yeah.
So before you give us the answer,
Okay.
I want to
All right.
ask you, Mr. Crusader, well, how do you think this was done?
Let's see. That's a tough one because I like look through a lot of them. There's a lot of those that do the glitch effect, but see, I will. I was thinking of saying Adobe After Effects like I use, but one, I think that's a bit expensive for most people, and two, I don't see like anything you could do in Adobe After Effects to get the glitch effect. Uh, yeah, no, I'm kind of clueless on that. I'd love to know how you made it.
All right, White Rooster. So, will you give us the big reveal? How did you do this piece?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. After Effects is too expensive for me. This is done in DaVinci Resolve. And the glitch effect, let's see. Blender, I don't want to say Blender, but DaVinci has its own kind of like built-in glitch like effect. Like, so you just grab this effect, you throw it over your footage, and it will just sit there and glitch. And the way that works, so that was another thing I studied, like just like with the particles, is how the heck do you do that? And literally, all you do is you just take a image of random squares, random rectangles, right? And you literally composite it over it, like using you can if you have colored squares or black and white squares. Let's just say black and white squares. That's how a lot of this was done. That's how you get that kind of wrinkly effect. When you composite it over it, what you do is you duplicate the um, footage on top of itself, and then you use that image as how you blend it together. So you duplicate your footage on top of itself. You zoom in on it or whatever, or let's say you want to add kind of the what's that effect where it's blue on one side and red on the other. You can use that as your overlay, and then how you blend them together would be your pattern. That would be your square pattern, your rectangle pattern. That's how that's done. It's harder to explain than it is to show. It's actually not very simple, or it's not very complicated. It's very very simple. Everything I do, by the way, is very simple. If you see me doing something and you think it's awesome, I tell you what, it was probably something that I saw a tutorial on, and it could be done in like 5-10 minutes. Like there's nothing super spectacular. A lot of the HUD effects were just that you see. I found them online somewhere, and I downloaded them, like the circle HUD effects, even the HUD effect on the top. But then I'll composite that, like to kind of blur it, to stylize it, to change it a bit. That's how a lot of that was done. Uh, Aside from the logo itself, not too much was quote unquote made completely and totally from scratch.
Can I ask one question real quick if you don't mind?
Yeah, go for it.
I just want to ask, like, on a few frames, you can like see, especially like near the last frame,
Hmm.
there's this like weird neon effect that it has.
Hmm.
Uh, I just want to know, like, how you get like certain areas to glow, and certain areas to like usually just stay the same, if that makes sense.
What you're looking at here is it's several individual objects overlaid on top of each other. And all you do is you apply the glow effect to that individual object. So like the blue play button or even just the white rooster text, all that is just an individual object, and then you have the glow effect applied on that. Now that object you don't even see, that kind of like nebula explosion effect. That, yeah, in fact, you can even kind of see what I was talking about earlier with the square effect. And what you do is you composite that with what is the mode? Um, I think I did divide add or something like that. It's the base image let me see if I can find it. Let me just show you what I used to make that. It's going to take me a moment.
Very fertile. This looks amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Glitch effects is hard to do well, and you've done a good job with that.
You know what? Another thing I've learned about the glitch effects is you do it for only a few frames.
Mm.
Don't like this is another thing that I always try to overcomplicate things, and I started realizing the feedback I've been getting from people has always been, oh, this is better when you don't overcomplicate it, you know, or when it's something super simple like that.
Yes, because I'm counting the frames right now. It's like the start, it's about 4 or 5 frames, then explosion. They're almost like individual frames, and then 5 frames, and then it's out. It's done.
Yep. Right. Exactly. Don't show them everything. You know what I mean?
That's good.
Faster, the less time you have it glitching, because that becomes a thing in itself. It almost becomes too distracting from what is it you're trying to advertise there. See, glitches it's like interrupting your signal. It's not supposed to be your focus. It's just supposed to be an interference. I'm looking up that actual animation. Give me a moment. Got a lot of them.
That's good.
There it is.
Which I think is the common theme of today concerning the storytelling, the compositing trees, the technique of the modeling, and also the techniques of your compositing with the glitch effects and others. Sometimes less is more. That is good to know. It's also liberating. You don't have to always put in so much effort to make things.
Yeah, let me share with you some of the images. Here is the actual glitch, like what gets composited. That's the actual image. And that's super basic. Nothing complex there.
Okay, loading here. This is the image you composite and use for the bloom and other effects.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. And then this is just a simple texture done in Blender, and then you overlay that, and it kind of makes your object or whatever looks like it's digitized in a sense. Let me find.
It's making my pixels on my screen just explode.
Let me find for you what you guys were asking for.
That's good though. Oh, I did want to say one thing, if that's all right.
That's okay.
When like on the top, when people like tell you to like not overcomplicate things, I would like I disagree with that. Like, I'd say it's kind of don't overcomplicate things all over the string. Like have like for example the logo. Like I'd say overcomplicate like one spot you're mainly going to be focusing on, and just not like all around the screen, especially when like areas people aren't really going to be paying attention to. But yeah, you can always still do that. Like the glitch effect, you always give it like that glitch kind of feel. You can't just like you should make the whole screen glitch, obviously, but like for some things, like if you make the logo separate or wherever you do with it, I'd say just to not like make it go all over the screen, if that makes sense. But like simplifying it is probably entirely like probably a bad idea because like for example the whole thing with oversimplifying logos, it just never really works out. So I wouldn't really like listen to it. It will tell you that much, but that's just my input on it.
True, yeah. Balance of texture, I suppose.
My explosion glitch effect video is too powerful for Discord.
That's ironic.
Yeah, it's this little glitch animation that you colorize.
Which effect is from Discord?
It's not from. I was trying to upload it and share it with you guys. The exact video, glitch effect that the explosion glitch effect. So then you can slow it down and see what it is, and then the rest is just done in the compositor. But it's too powerful for. It's too large for me to upload to Discord.
Okay, that's okay. Well, I'll tell you what, White Rooster
That's what you
Productions.
mean. Just hit me.
I'll tell you what, Mr. White
I'm sorry to
Rooster.
interrupt.
No problem. So, our time is ticking and the session is about to be finished. We have a question by someone, Haley Twist Up. He has been asking a question about blueprints. So this is all the art that we have for this week. And thanks, Mr. White Rooster Productions, for sharing this, and Mr. Crusader for your feedback on these pieces as well. It's very good compositing tips and ideas about the glitches.
No problem.
So with this question that we have today, let's see if we can answer it together. So this question comes in by Haley Twistup, and he asks, how do I work with both blueprints and real-life references when making a model based off of anything when it comes to 3D? So basically, how do I create with likeness to references? So that's my question that's the question from the community brought to the table today. So, Mr. Crusader, what do you think? What advice do you have for this particular question?
That's kind of hard. I've never really been good at like modeling, but I mean, I have now, I'm better now. But I'd say if you want to have a clear image in your head, there's two things you can be like building a blueprint from real life or just from an image. You can do this thing, like you can do it the simple way by like minimizing the screen on render, being like bringing an image and then kind of looking at it side by side and then like slowly modeling it. And there's a second way it's a lot less messier because when you minimize render, it's kind of hard to work with because it doesn't make the like control panels any smaller, so you have to do that manually. But the easier way is by saving the image to like whatever file. Then you try adding an object, and you go to this thing. I think it's called reference image, and what it does, it's kind of cool. It will like project the image, and it like lights up on its own, but it doesn't affect the environment. And it also doesn't show up on renders either. So you can like do it like that. So it's easier to do it without like while having it in full screen. But yeah, the only problem with it is that if you're not looking at it, like when you turn around or like in general, when you like move your camera that you're editing with, you're not going to be able to see it. So you'll have to constantly look around with you. So that's the only upside I can see like for having it on a Windows tab. Other things I'd say is if you're modeling something from real life and you're close to it, like maybe something in your house, just like look at it in real life. Like it's easier to just look at it in real life than looking at an image. But obviously, like a lot of things aren't going to be just in your household. So
Yes, some things are a bit abstract. So my advice for you, Haley, is basically get a feel for the forms and think big to small. So when you have your piece that you've referenced here in the chat, let me just load it up for you. Give me 1 second. It's way up here. So you've been working on this giant cat truck for open mines or strip mines, and you started doing the block out with the models and getting the details started. And in general, you've got a very good shape of the language. So I don't know what your references are or what model this truck particularly is, but if I was going to create something from reference, you can do the reference of using something like PureRef, Illusion. PureRef is free. So PureRef gives me the option of like holding images in front of my software, I can make it stand on top with Control-Shift-A, and I can start working immediately inside of the software while I have this. And I can also just drag and drop an image by deselecting everything and dragging and dropping an image into the space. So for example, I grabbed an image from the Explorer, and with nothing selected, if you have something selected, it will replace it or do nothing. But if you have nothing selected, it creates a new null. And that's how you can use these images to use as a reference to help model. So another thing that I like to do is, okay, so you got to start thinking of the big shapes, then the medium shapes, and then the small shapes. So when you do an analysis of a reference, you can use the options of matching up the general big shape of the idea. So usually that is the camera depth of the photo if you're trying to do a 1-for-1. So for example, you could use a software called F-Spy. So F-Spy helps you see the perspective and the focal length of a camera from a photo that you have captured from a video. There's also an add-on for Blender which has paid, but does the same thing within Blender. But basically you draw your perspective lines based on the reference, and it will give you a 3D plane, and with that you can test, or a cube, you can test and see basically what the camera angle is and what the camera focal length is, or others, or depending on what you need or need to get. That's good to help you match references, to help you do kind of like a ground truth check. Once you have a ground truth reference check, you can start going on to your analysis. So with this particular character that my brother drew for me many years ago, his name is Trini. He's a little mascot for me. I wanted to make him and animate him as part of the future. But basically what we do is we do a topology study on the actual character in the reference. And we start doing a turntable, and we do like a study of the different pieces. And we start with the general shape of the idea of the character, which is kind of this triangular head with rounded corners. And we tested the general shape of the character to kind of get a shape and a form. So just like what you were doing, you're building up your character and you're getting the overall shape of the general character. So if we're here inside the software, I would start blocking it out, start blocking out the proportions, getting the general shape of the actual character, and let's just focus on the head for now. And basically kind of get the general idea of what this character is. And then from there, work with that. And let's just subdivide it. Wow, I'm in a weird computer and I feel strange. I feel like I have no legs.
Wait,
And then from there you start focusing.
where you feel like you have no legs? What?
Well, basically, I just purchased a new computer recently. This is the first upgrade I've had in 10 years. But it has taken me, it's also the first time I've used Windows 11. And I've just started to set up my things. So my hotkeys are all not configured correctly. And then the keyboard also is different. It's a different keyboard.
Oh.
So I'm pressing the wrong keys.
It just hit me when you said you have no legs. I forgot that was a saying. I literally thought I just thought you were editing with your legs for some reason. I don't know why that thought popped into my mind. But like, what do you mean you lost your legs? I thought you were editing this with your hand. But yeah, sorry.
Where were we? So there you go, Haley. Basically, just to give you a summary and so we can tie up today, because our time is now getting close to 1 hour, that when you're working from reference, do your studies. Take a closer look at what your thing is. Do a mind map. Take, if you need a piece that needs some effort, do some measurements. Think of the topology that you'll do around the mouth, for example, or what are the designs of the pieces or the shapes that you need to do. If you're looking at for example, you have troubles with the wheel that you created, and you're wondering, how can I improve the wheel shape? So you got the overall shape okay, now you need to think about the details, and you need to think about, okay, the medium shape, which is the hub. What does the hub look like? And then from the hub, you got to think about the tiny details of the small things, which are last but not least, and that will give you the realism. So when it comes to realism and building from realism, you got to get the overall shape just right, perfect dimensions. If you have blueprints with dimensions, then work with the dimensions. If I'm creating this character, and this character is supposed to be 1 meter tall, if I make this 2 meter cube, you can see that this the character should be technically 1 meter tall, so I'll make a 1 meter cube just to have a general idea. And now my references are too large. So if I start modeling and use my camera lenses, it's going to feel broken. So you need to make sure that your scene settings and your scene scale is correct, so that you're modeling to scale. So now he's 1 point something, and now he's a 1 meter character, which is a lot more exact to how he should be. So with that, I can actually use the proper settings to start modeling him correctly. So you do the big shapes, study, medium shapes, study, then the small detail studies, work with dimensions on the big shapes, work on the general shapes of the medium shapes, and then focus on the types of details that you need to get the realism that you want. And then from there, work with your ground truth reference. My ground truth reference in this case will be using this particular image, which is a dynamic frame. Get my camera, kind of like line it up like this, kind of basically like that. Maybe I'll change the focal length because it's quite far away, or it's very flat. So I'm going to use 90 millimeters, and I'll pull it out just a bit, and this is my ground truth. So when I get my 3D model here, so if I import this model, if I can find it, this is going to take too long. I was not prepared. But if I have my model finished and I've built it based on the reference, I can then overlay with the correct focal length based on the camera reference to kind of get a transparent, I guess you could say, idea with some opacity. For example, I can make it transparent and put it on top or behind or around the actual reference of this ground truth angle. And you can do the same from all of the angles. Just set up a camera, make another camera, another reference, and then with your 3D model behind it. Nothing like transparent overlay to help you get the exact type of modeling from the reference. Obviously though, you do have to have some kind of creative flexibility. Sometimes the images will never be enough. This was drawn by hand, and this was with my brother's skill that was not 100% up there, so his proportions look a little bit different on some angles than others. For example, with our references, I prefer this proportion where his legs are shorter and his body's a little bit longer, but his head's way bigger than this proportions, just a little bit. I prefer this one more than this one. So you need to have, okay, so and when I finish doing the basic modeling, I'm just going to push and pull and move things around a little bit so that I actually have something closer to my inspiration that I want. And you can have some creative liberty to do that.
I have one question.
Sure.
Does your brother do 2D animation?
Yes.
Sorry, I know we don't have much time left on the interview.
He does, and he's
does he post any of it online?
He does, and he makes me look really bad. He's got about 2 million subscribers on YouTube. You will be able to find him as Teleporte.
What's his name?
Teleporte. So if we're on YouTube.
I'll write that down in my notes. Just look up his YouTube. I'm a genius. Write it down in my notes and then look it up.
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah, it's messing. Teleport. Yeah, I know. I've seen. I remember hearing about that channel.
Yeah, so he does these animations.
Yeah, but pretty good.
Yeah, they are quite good. Very fun.
That is nothing compared to what I did when I did 2D. I heard that when I found Teleport, I never really watched that many. I think I watched 2 videos, But I did like how how do I put it? I don't know, just in general, I just like how it was all better than mine can ever be. I mean, I've seen better. Sorry, not trying to
Yeah.
sound rude when I say that.
I mean, there's always room to
But
improve, I know.
for that looked really good. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. But I remember looking at that when I started doing 2D animation, and it's like, wow, I'm gonna break my hand trying to do that.
Yeah, he burnt out, actually. He did one animation for a year and a bit, and he, at the moment, he is burnt out. He's no longer animating like he used to. So it's all unfortunate. But
Yeah, I mean, I remember like checking in time to time, like seeing like that he nearly posted every day. I was like, wow, how does somebody like post every single day? That's amazing. And I mean, to be honest, I'm not surprised that like they got burned out because I would have gotten burned out after 2 weeks. And so, yeah, I'd say they probably need some time. Like, that's why the way you can, like, the best way to get like a good idea of what you're going to do is if you do too much at once, then you're going to eventually start running out of ideas. But, yeah, you just need to get yourself some brain space pretty much. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, brother has a really good channel.
yes, good content. I aspire to that type of storytelling eventually, but we'll get there piece by piece. Which actually leads me to the second to final segment before we run out of time. Unfortunately, today we don't have enough time for me to share a lot about how I've set up my Windows 11, but maybe next week I'll have a better presentation for you. But just to give you a quick update, I do finally have a new computer, which means I'll be adding in a lot more production with the Painterly project. So if you haven't been following me for some time, I've been working on this Painterly project and I've nearly finished one of the episodes. Files are still currently copying over to my hard drive at the moment, which means they're not 100% ready. But last week I did give you a heads up, and this week I took your feedback and I've been, actually I could maybe show you from the network, give me a second. I've updated the shots thanks to your feedback from last week, and I've re-rendered all of the shots, and now they're being composited and they're getting some color balancing done, and they should be this episode should be ready to publish soon. So what's coming in the next couple of months? I currently have 2 active clients, which is the music videos that I have right now. There are still 6 more episodes to do, and the next episode is about the high class district, about a woman and her robot servants. So the next video, She Her Bot by Android DJ Unknown and the Android Repair Shop album, is going to be the next episode, and hopefully I'll get that done within the next 2 weeks, maybe sooner once I have this computer up and running. So that's it for today. Thank you, Mr. Crusader, for all of your input, your opinions, sharing your tips and your advice.
No problem.
I really enjoyed it. I also want to thank you, White Rooster, for the improvised answers to your pieces. Hopefully one day I will be able to interview you about your short film, which I still haven't seen. I would love to see it getting done, and I will be keeping an eye out for that. That's okay, yeah, you weren't prepared, that's perfectly fine. Next time we can book you in for later. And another thing about today's updates, I hope you got your answers, Haley, to help you guide your modeling from reference. Don't be too strict on yourself. Be dynamic, do your studies. Think of the big picture first, and then get your measurements and your cameras right, and then focus on the medium and the small details. And you'll be good to go from there. Software that was mentioned today was PureF, which is free, and Blender, obviously, After Effects, DaVinci Fusion, or DaVinci Resolve, sorry, not Fusion, but Fusion is the other compositor, and F-Spy. So without further ado, I'm going to give you just the tiny little bonus thing, and I wanted to let you know that in Linux, when you hold down a button, you can left click on a window and move it. With Windows, this is not possible. You always have to click the top bar and then move it. But with this little software called Alt Drag, you can assign, for example, the hotkey Windows so that you can right click and resize a window, or left click and just move it around. Or if you want, you can pin it on top so that the window is always pinned on the top. So Windows 11 has some really good snapping, which I really love, but sometimes you just want to move a window without being super exact on the mouse or using too much of the keyboard. So that's my first tip for Windows 11, and with that, thank you for everything. Thank you for connecting and hanging out till the end. I will see you guys next Friday, same time, same place, and thank you for everything.